held in a lower sump designed into the new engine for the ATV that incorporates the oil sump right in the cases. Allows us to not have lines and an external bottle that can become damaged in cross-country racing. Literally, this is a dry sump operating engine with a built-in sump below the rotating parts of the motor. So we don't have the windage, and we don't have oil drag on the rotating parts, just like a dry sump engine with an external tank. Give you an idea how much commitment they went into this. They lifted a brand new set of cases from design. The cases are wider because this 5-speed transmission incorporates reverse, which we feel saves rider fatigue during any event or even trail ride. They've also had to make the sump deeper to hold the additional oil. Motorcycles hold 1.2 liters. This one will hold 2 liters even, which increases the oil capacity and actually increases the oil's ability to cool the engine. You know, the quads have a little bit more load on them than the motorcycles, so a lot of the thought went into the design of this motor. Not only that, this is a good time for me to mention. I'm getting a little bit further back in the chassis than I want, but right here, the important pivot point, I might spin this just real quick. I don't want to kind of flip-flop back and forth, but many of us know the importance of aligning the actual countershaft with the pivot point on the swing arm. KTM went the extra mile and actually relocated the position of the back engine mount, and they positioned this engine mount back here so that it would place the relationship of these two shafts to give you the best chain tension throughout the suspension range, and also to reduce the anti-squat, or to get it just right for weight transfer and traction. Well thought out system here, completely modified engine case again. Okay, with that in mind, I guess while I'm here, I better take a moment so we don't forget and tell you that inside this is not the typical motorcycle stator. They anticipated this running 12 Hours of America, endurance test, maybe Baja events. We're not sure where this ATV is going to actually show up at. There's a 200-watt stator inside this cover that'll operate bolt-on lights, so the consumer doesn't have to be searching for rewound stators or buying aftermarket parts. Ready to race again. Okay? With that in mind, let's kind of focus back on the front just a little bit again as I was moving through. Built-in shrouds, removable fenders, we've been there. If you'll take a look up here, is this a sign of race ready? This is not something we installed after the bike arrived in the U.S. This was done at the factory. A rider can go right to a race. If he's new to the sport, he can sign up for his license, and he can go back to the tech area, and instead of the tech guy saying, you know, you need to go to the aftermarket trailer or the supplier here, get a wire connector, a tether strap, and make sure that you have a lanyard strap on your bike. It's a safety item, a requirement. And by the way, you're going to have to find out what wire to hook it to, how to install it, and the guy might have 30-40 minutes before his first race. We felt that we were going to install this from the factory, and it's race ready. Okay? So we come back down, spending just a moment here. The exhaust system easily removable. I'd like to maybe take a moment now to say, look at all the room we have here. If I remove this engine bracket right here, of course take the rest of the engine mounts and the connections away, and I don't even have an upper engine stay on this. So this engine comes out very quick, and it'll slip out the left or it'll slip out the right without any interference. We feel that making the frame out of chromoly steel rather than large beam aluminum components allowed serviceability that's much quicker for the technician or even the race team to maintain the bike. Which leads me to two things. This bike comes in a 525 engine, it comes in a 450 engine. In case we're going to cater to some sand dune riders and we're going to take care of the competition rider. Here's the nice thing. 450 engine. If it were in this bike, you pull it out, and with the same braces, brackets, bolts, connectors of 100%, you install the 525 motor. It's a simple slip out, slip in, direct fit. In fact, both engines carry the same crankshaft stroke. So you can take a 450 and you can create it or make the top end into a 525. You can then go to our hard equipment catalog and turn it into a 540 big bore kit. So there's a lot of options that you can get out of one engine, if you will, bottom end. As I look at this side, I could move through and talk about a few things. The location of the water pump's excellent. If you ever have to take the primary cover off the clutch on this bike, there's no cooling system components to work through. So I kind of like even where we drive our water pump off of the upper camshaft. Looking here as I go back through, you're going to notice this bike has electric start. I've mentioned reverse, now I'm going to bring to you electric start. you know, electric starts is almost on everything KTM builds now. We even have a 300 two-stroke with electric start, first in the industry. So it's not uncommon to think that we would have electric start on this quad as well. Works very well, high-speed crank, high-power starter. If I can take a moment working back through, this happens to be two oil reservoirs right here where we house our filters. The primary and secondary filters are literally that easy to get to. Nothing in your way, filter changes quick. We have a drain plug down here with a strainer, another drain plug down here with a strainer, and a drain plug in the very back with a magnet. So filtration is pretty much priority on the lubrication system. So I really think that that's going to give you long, durable life. Okay, also, this is kind of maybe overreacting a bit, but other manufacturers don't always have this quality. This shifter rides on splines with a taper. With that kind of mounting design, there'll never be any problems with the actual splined end of this shifter. It doesn't have to be folding on the ATV, as you know, but it is good, high-quality, lightweight aluminum. Brings me to the foot pegs, you know, kind of controls, if you will. The foot pegs could save a consumer $300. I can tell you that aftermarket-wise, you'd have to invest $300 in this kind of a foot peg. And really what I need to help you with is to realize that they're extra wide. They do have the turned up ends to hold your foot on the unit if it's off camber or muddy. They have the serrated design, and if you'll look close here, they have two bolts, two holes here that are incorporated into the design along with the slots, so that ready to go, race ready Nerf bars can go right on the unit without any modification to the foot peg. We've even incorporated a hole up here on the frame. Maybe getting a little ahead of myself, but this will be the front mount for the Nerf bars. Might take a moment here. Maybe I'll cross in front just one moment, see if we can come over here and get some better light. If you'll notice the actual heel guards on the unit, this is a requirement by the federal government to have this kind of a safety item on the ATV. But we've designed large reliefs in here to let the mud flow through and release, hoping to reduce, you know, the mud and the weight that accumulates on a race bike as you run a GNCC event. So everything's thought through very well. It's probably time for me to talk about one more thing as I go. This forged, right here is a forged support built and designed by KTM, and it's been incorporated into the bikes for many years, and it has proven to be so strong so we won't have any concerns with fractures, cracks, or fatiguing in the swing arm pivot point. That ties right into this chrome moly frame. The chrome moly frame is of a kind of, it's not really an octagon, it's not really rectangular, it's not really round. It has its own unique shape that adds to the chrome moly for additional strength. You'll have to take a look at that when you get side by side with the bike. One thing I have to say, when we decided to go with chrome moly, we had durability in mind. We had serviceability in mind. But do you know we ended up with one of the lightest frames in the industry at 32 pounds? That's incredible. Okay? As we move back through, heel guards, foot pegs, pretty much covered that. I'll show you in a moment how easily the plastic removes from the bike. But we better stop. We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Look at this fuel tank. Ergonomically correct, where the rider can get in here. He kind of has some support back here for his legs, but he also, when he's cornering, he has support right here for his legs. And they've also made it very thin in this area and allowed enough room for his knees to work for full range of motion on the bike. So even the plastic was designed by pro riders for pro riders. Again, ready to race. But more to this fuel tank. 3.5 gallons. You won't have to replace this tank. You simply run your GNCC races with this. You'll fuel one time. We have a quarter turn, quick change, quick remove, if you will, gas cap that should help quick fill and fill rate at the pit stops. But 3.5 gallons. Keep in mind also, for the general rider, we've actually put a reserve spot on the petcock, which will give you 0.7 gallons of reserve fuel when you run out in the normal on position. With that, I might mention that it's very easily removable, gives you quick access to your valve adjustment, only held on by one bolt. We'll probably see later. Okay? This is a pretty good position right here to look at a few things. All right. As we come through, nothing real fancy, but I will say it's a 520 X-ring design chain, low drag, good reduced maintenance, holds its adjustment well. I can come around and you'll notice right away, nice aluminum removable subframe. So really, no matter what happens to this bike, you're going to be able to remove the subframe for any kind of repairs in the future. They also incorporated a removable grab